Kelby Wallace. Kelby, welcome back.
Good afternoon, Bart. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Real good.
Good. A good day for construction workers. Not too hot, not too humid.
Yeah, that's a nice break from that 95 humid days we had there the past couple weeks, off and on.
Yeah. Well, it's summer. It's the weather we want, right?
Right.
Yeah. And we need decent weather for construction season. Well, today we'll be talking about a big project that's going on in downtown Jackson, the Cooper Street Bridge. How's that coming along?
Good. Send a couple pictures there that are just kind of showing the progress. We're just about out of the ground. Here's a picture kind of looking, you can see the train station in the background, and you can see we're actually starting to work on some of our bridge foundations finally. We're kind of moving up out of the ground, and that's when kind of we start not running into any surprises anymore. When in the ground, you run into all sorts of surprises. So
yeah, you found like all kinds of old things.
Old sanitary sewer, old water lines, old utility lines, contaminated soil, just stuff you find in an old downtown area. Here's a picture of something that's kind of cool. Those are pipes sticking out of the ground, or what we call micro piles, and we drive those down to the bedrock. They're about 20 to 30 feet deep. And then we cut them off at the ground level, and we pour our foundation on top of that, and that transfers the load from the bridge down to the bedrock. So
Wow.
we don't excavate all the way down to the bedrock, which is really deep. So we use these micro piles to transfer the bridge load down to the bedrock.
Interesting.
So they'll cut these off, they'll build the foundation. Here you can see the green rebar sticking up out. That is where they're actually putting the footing or the foundation of the bridge. So they've already put our micro piles underneath there, and now they're pouring on top of them, and that'll be the actual foundation of the bridge itself.
Are they using the rebar as a climbing net? It looks like it.
It kind of does, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
I think in that last shot, we've got a worker that's climbing up the rebar screen.
Probably. They're probably using it to get up there on that wall a little bit. So that they're starting to form that foundation, what we actually call an abutment, to hold the bridge beams that will cross the river.
That's a lot of concrete, and it takes a long time to cure, so you have to do it in like layers.
Layers, right? So each one we usually have a 3 to 7 day cure we have to allow to happen before we can kind of pour on top of it, get all the way up to the top. When we do the bridge deck itself, the driving surface, we end up having like a 28-day cure.
Oh, wow.
On that one, and we like to have it wet almost that whole time. We require it to be wet for the first 7 days and cover it so it doesn't cure too fast. That's where you kind of get the cracks. So we kind of run a sprinkler system on it for the first 7 days.
Wow, I did not know that. I've got another photo that is closer to the train station.
So yeah, here's our, I know some folks are probably waiting for Michigan Avenue to open back up. So here's some concrete that we poured on the west side of the tracks down there. So that part is almost put back together. And then this next picture shows we got like one more big pour that's scheduled for around July 15th. Right there you can see the manholes that are sticking up out of the dirt, the aggregate that we'll be pouring on top of. And then once that cures, we'll open up, we'll do the pavement striping first, but then we'll be able to open up Michigan Avenue. We're expecting into that third week of July.
Pretty close to schedule. I remember, over a month ago, you laid out what your timeline was, and that's pretty much right on.
We're real close,
Yeah.
real close. So yeah.
All right, we've got another. Looks like another bridge that is.
Yeah. So this was US 127 down at Jefferson. Some folks who commute might be running in this a lot. This carries the Grand River down there, where it's a lot smaller. You can see right here we've kind of peeled the top surface off, and this is when our bridge inspectors go in there and actually figure out maybe where the concrete's a little soft or deteriorated. So you can see how much is deteriorated there. We marked off in the white a lot. And so then the next step on the next slide, we go in there and use equipment to blast off the concrete that's not structurally solid. You see it start to expose some of the old steel rebar that's underneath there. And then I think the last picture might show some of it was bad enough we had to take it all out. You can see the bridge beam underneath there. And we'll have to form up and do what we call a full depth patch. in that area to make it solid and continuous. Once we kind of do all that, we put more steel rebar back on there, and then we'll pour like a 5-inch concrete deck surface on top of it, and then we'll actually put a couple inches of asphalt to match the roadway next to it, and then we'll be able to open it up. So this project is, we didn't expect to find that much deterioration, but when you start peeling off a deck surface, there was like 4 inches of asphalt on top of it. So sometimes you get water and salt that's kind of trapped in those layers, and it sits in there and it just kind of rots that concrete. But
So you weren't planning on doing, you didn't think you'd need to do any of that?
we thought we were just going to have to do a couple little surface repairs. Yeah, but when we opened it up, you know, you kind of got to do something to make it last.
But not quite enough where you just have to say, well, we're going to have to redo the whole thing from scratch.
No, we weren't quite there. But that is, you start to get to that point where you start weighing your options. But this one, we didn't quite get to that point where it was better to take everything off.
Now that piece of bridge, is that actually carrying traffic? Was it carrying traffic?
So we actually do what we call part width on that one.
Oh.
So it was wide enough down there where we could actually push traffic to one side of the roadway, and then we put some temporary concrete barrier to protect the workers. So there's traffic there on the left of the screen.
Oh, okay. I see the yellow line
Yeah.
now.
So we've got one lane in each direction. We don't have any turn lanes at Jefferson, but we had to modify the traffic signal to help with the turn lane. So there are a few backups. We generally see it about 5 to 6 to 8 minutes on 127 during rush hour. During the middle of the day, not really
too
any
bad.
backups at all. So, but that one, we're doing it part width. Where our bridge downtown Jackson, it was a different kind of bridge, and we're replacing it completely. So we couldn't do that. We had to shut it down completely to have access to the work zone.
And when you're done on this side, you're going to do the whole thing just the opposite side, and then
On 127, correct. So we're just going. Well, this is the first half. So this project is trending towards a mid-November completion.
oh wow,
Yeah.
awesome. I guess you talk about infrastructure, bridges. We've got so many that they're old and they need maintenance or replacement. And you pretty much are going through the inventory of what bridges are on those lists and knocking them off, I guess, as fast as you can.
Yeah. We try to, some bridges we try to maybe just repair the surface, and make some steel repairs underneath to fix the beams if there's any corrosion or anything going on. We can kind of put supports underneath there and anchor in some new steel to help reinforce it. I mean, that's a lot cheaper than ripping everything out, because we just don't have enough money to rip every single bridge out and put a brand new bridge. So some of them we have to try to do some repairs to.
We've got the Elm Road Bridge, which is, I think, brand new, right?
Right.
And you're going to be doing maintenance on that this weekend.
Yeah, so our new bridges, we try to stay on top of those a little bit quicker nowadays than they used to, and we're going in there and kind of touching up a waterproofing system that we put on that, a 2-part epoxy that you put on top of these bridges, and there's some parts of it there that we need to redo that already.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's just like a one-day event, and I think our lane closures on our website, a press release said 2 days, but it was kind of one day in case it rains. They'll do it the next day. If they can get it done Saturday, they'll be done on Saturday. If it rains Saturday, they'll be done on Sunday. So it's kind of a one-day, a quick operation, but it's something that really helps to waterproof that, so you don't get that salt and rainwater going into that concrete or going into that steel reinforcement.
Yeah, so salt's pretty bad. For northern states, in the south, the types of projects and maintenance I would imagine completely different.
Yeah, they last a lot longer. Their
Yeah.
life cycles are a lot longer for their pavements and their bridges because you don't have that corrosion. But we've grown accustomed in Michigan that when it snows, we've got to put salt on it, and we got to open the roads within an hour or two, where people are unhappy and people drive and have issues. But that's something that I think we've created ourselves, this expectation that and salt's the only way that works that quickly, that's affordable.
Plus expansion and contraction that doesn't happen in the south like it does up here.
Right. They don't have the minus 15 degrees in the winter, and then we're almost as hot as they are in the summer on days, and they aren't nearly as cold as us.
For the most part, everybody's enjoying smooth sailing on the beautiful new I-94, but there's still work being done, I think, west of Jackson.
Yeah, yep, we've kind of got our last major activity out there. What we put in our rumble strips that folks either, a lot of people don't like them that live by them, but they really are a great safety feature. If somebody's drifting or texting, they catch you and you wake up and you get back to driving instead of whatever else you're not supposed to be doing. So we're installing those along the shoulders of I-94, both directions, and final pavement markings so that they last a lot longer, which are really helpful at night and in the wet weather. Those.
Well, rumble strips, you shouldn't even know about them if you're staying in your lane, right?
Correct.
Now, earlier this week, we had a story about a highway in United Arab Emirates with rumble strips that play Beethoven's Ninth Symphony as you drive over them. You have to be going at a certain speed, but the vibration, I don't know how they do it, apparently by the length and the height or whatever, but as you're driving, they showed a video, you can hear it.
Wow.
Yeah, have you thought about that?
No, that person sounds a lot smarter than me.
Yeah.
If they figured that out, that's pretty good.
It sounds like they have more money than they know what to do with.
I think you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah, there it is.
Wow.
There's the example of it. But these people,
Drive up.
apparently they're supposed to drive on the rumbles, but the idea is you don't drive on the rumble strips.
Right, that's what
No.
they're a safety tool to.
And you kind of, do you gout, is that how you do the rumble strips? You actually dig out?
You grind out about anywhere from an eighth to a quarter inch of the pavement surface in a certain pattern that kind of gets that rumble.
Mm. Yeah, well, they keep people safe. I thought also, as we've been seeing the streets being painted, the yellow, it looks like it's a darker yellow. Have we changed the yellow paint on the streets?
So they're always kind of trying to come up with new and better ways that have reflective beads in them, and that's the thing that I mentioned, the at nighttime vision in the wet is these beads that we now add to the paint that actually kind of hold water, and when your headlights hit them, they really pop out at you. You know, if you look at like parking lot lines, you don't see that in some of those lines, but on our highways, we try to add that. So I think we are always trying to kind of try out new products and improve that. So that may be, if you're seeing some of the lines that look a little different, it's one of our different materials.
Yeah, I say darker, but actually they're brighter. You talk about parking lot lines; it's just kind of flat, dull. These seem to have a little more pop.
Correct. Yeah, we've got several different types of materials that we put down depending on the amount of traffic on the roadway, how much you want to spend on them. And things like that. So
yeah, we just had downtown Jackson just got new yellow double lines, and they are. I mean, it's fresh.
That's pretty bright.
It's fresh, pretty bright, and for some reason people like to drive on the fresh painted yellow lines. That must drive you nuts.
You know, I'm sorry, I feel like their cars probably took the brunt of it on those a lot of times.
That's not good for the car.
Yeah, when you see those cones on the yellow line, I'd stay off it as long as you can if I were you, especially if you have a decent car.
I saw over the holiday weekend, the state of Michigan had 198 construction projects underway, and they suspended about half of them for the holiday. But it seems like that's an awful lot. Is it a lot?
We're still kind of having some projects that were supplemented by some of the bond funding that the governor put through a little while ago. Some of those projects are still actively under construction. Big construction up in Lansing is one of them.
Yeah.
We've got one over in near US 23. In northern Livingston County up there towards I-96 and Brighton. So those really big ones are still going on. And plus we kind of have our normal load of projects that we're doing. So it is, and this time of year, you've got a ton of stuff that starts up because a lot of times we try to get stuff done when school's out or when the temperatures are a little bit warmer, like our pavement marking projects. We like that to get done when it's warm because those lines dry a lot faster. If you have a 50-degree night, that stuff for a 50-degree evening when they're putting down that paint, and that paint might not dry all night on the center line of the road. And so there's a lot of stuff that we try to squeeze in between Memorial Day and Labor Day that sometimes conflicts with the extra traffic on the roads. But we're stuck with that in Michigan in our short construction season.
Yeah, you mentioned several of the bigger projects, the 127 around Lansing, and I think 696 is a pretty major one going on right now too.
Metro Detroit area,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
Well, thanks for the updates and good to see you.
You too.
Kelby Wallace is Jackson TSC manager at Michigan Department of Transportation.